Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think there's definitely relief on my end, even though I really wasn't paying a ton of attention to the waiver. But at least now knowing that I do personally get to race for a championship feels good. So, um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot that went into it on NASCAR's end, and a lot of discussion, and just wanted to be right. I think we all, probably even them, figured we would get the waiver. I think they were just trying to make sure they had all their ducks in a row first. So, yeah, I'm appreciative of it for sure, and you look forward to kind of getting through this week, and hopefully just after this press conference, not have to talk about waivers again. So, no, it feels good, and just yeah, thankful that nobody has to deal with the drama going forward.
Did you have any conversations with people at NASCAR about the waiver over like the last 2 weeks, or was that all done by Hendrick executives?
I personally didn't have any communication with NASCAR, but I know Jeff Gordon and Jeff Andrews and Rick Hendrick were in constant communication with them. So, I was appreciative of the support through my race team, and just kind of let them handle it. I didn't really know if there was anything I could say, and I'm pretty bad with words sometimes, so maybe I could have just dug myself a hole a little bit if I was to communicate. But no, again, I'm just thankful that we don't have to deal with it again, and yeah, I'm happy to get to race for a championship. So yeah, thanks everybody there.
Yeah, and speaking of like digging yourself in a hole with words, you did say at one point that you didn't care if you got the waiver last week. So I'm curious. I assume you cared, but maybe you were just kind of either over it or like you race and whatever you're racing for, you're going to race for.
Yeah, I mean, sure, I cared, but I don't. It The thing that I care the most about is the owner championship, at least in that moment, because that's what pays the bills. So that's kind of where I was coming at it from there. I was a little less stressed out about it than I think what everybody would imagine you to be. So, but yeah, I'm just happy that I get to. If I do win a championship now, I can have my name on the record books.
I think the worst kept secret in NASCAR was that Kyle Larson was going to get this waiver. And look, I watched the Elton Sawyer press conference on
Yeah,
Zoom the other day, and I thought he explained it very well, and it made a lot of sense. Of look, it's at the end of the day about the fans. I mean, and the
right.
fans for the last 10 races of the season, they want to see Kyle Larson get a shot for the championship. I do though think because NASCAR to me is more savvy about this nowadays with promotion. You can go back to the fight between Stenhouse and Kyle Busch. I think NASCAR milked this for a nice 10 days of publicity. What do you think? And it worked.
Man,
It worked.
yeah. Charlie, I don't know. Honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. I've had those same thoughts. I've read it, and I'm like, no, they certainly didn't do this, did they? Right? What it goes back to is, to start with, we all knew what was going to happen, right? He's going to run both races. Well, the rain came, and of course, that screwed everything up. In my mind, knowing all the parties involved, I'm like, they have to have insurances. Hendrick Motorsports is bound to have assurances that, this is going to work, this is going to be okay, right? That was always in my mind. And then when it's all over with, and NASCAR puts out the deal last week after the race, and and Larson doesn't have any playoff points. I'm like, now what's going on here, right? Is this from media hype or? And then we read and hear that we've got two factions in NASCAR that are fighting with one another about whether to waive the deal or not for Larson. And I'm like, well, I don't know what's true. All right, is it did they have? All right, the questions are: did they have the assurances? Did Hendrick have the assurances beforehand that he would get the waiver? All right, if he did or he didn't. Well, then if he didn't, you know, then NASCAR is like, well, we haven't officially done that, and there's like two or three people in charge that say we ain't gonna give him one because he chose the Indy 500 over the World 600. Then you got two or three other people in NASCAR saying, yeah, but it's great for our sport. It's great for racing overall. Is that really what went on? Okay, or is it, we're going to give them the waiver all along, but let's get some hype over it for a couple weeks. Well, Charlie, the problem with that angle, the problem is we had so much negative hype, right? It was negative hype over that deal. I mean, may, but then you got the thing to always keep in mind with NASCAR, dude. You always keep this in mind. I don't care what's going on and who's running it. You always go back to Bill France Sr., right? And his mantra. I mean, his mantra was publicity. I don't care if it's good publicity or bad publicity, as long as we get publicity, right? Now, again, granted, different era, it's back before cell phones and computers and all that stuff, but that was his take. The more publicity we get. And I don't know if maybe some of that is still, it's hard to say. I'm going to tell you something. NASCAR is a very, very, very sophisticated organization, Charlie. They're a lot more sophisticated, I think, than they get credit for, right? So if you look at it if you look at it in that standpoint, maybe they were just milking it for a couple of weeks. They knew what they were going to do. Maybe that is the case. I don't know, but with the TV deal, I mean, you don't sell what $8 billion package to TV networks and not have some high level of sophistication in your organization. You know that it just doesn't happen, right? So I'm like you, Charlie, and everybody else. I'm left with, man. There's like 3 scenarios could have happened here, and I honestly don't know. And I that makes me mad because I normally have enough inside information, or not inside information. I have enough people I can talk to and all, and just kind of read between the lines and figure this stuff out. Can't figure this one out. I cannot figure this one out. I just don't know at this point. I will figure it out before this Rick Mast show ends in the next decade or two. I'll have it figured out. And when I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah, it did seem like some people, I think everybody thought Kyle Larson would get the waiver. But for example, at that Kenny Wallace live show, Bubba Wallace was there, and Kenny asked him, and Bubba Wallace basically said he made a choice. He said that Kyle Larson made a choice. Once he knew the weather was bad, and that, look, you basically have to leave once there's going to be a long delay. You'd have to leave at that point to make the Coke 600 on time. That Kyle Larson made a choice, and he, for that day, chose the Indy 500 over the Coke 600. Now, I would do the same personally, but that's not an unfair argument.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's not. I mean, I had those thoughts that Sunday watching all these races, right? I'm like, when he elected to stay up there, I'm like, well, man, you kind of putting the Indy 500 over this NASCAR race, right? I mean, this is your bread and butter. I mean, you were down and out 3 or 4 years ago whenever all you had your trouble, and Mr. Hendrick give you the shot, and NASCAR is giving you what you've got now, And I'm like, nah, no, this is bigger than that. This is bigger. The fan, like I remember when Tony, the first year, when Tony Stewart did the deal and Tony flew in on the helicopter at Charlotte, right? And we were all there. This right before the race started. Here comes, of course, it's Humpy Wheeler and the big show and all that. But here comes Tony helicoptering in right there on the front stretch, right, or the grassy area. And I'm telling you, Charlie, the grandstands, it was like Earnhardt winning, wherever Earnhardt won it. If Earnhardt would win at Charlotte, that's the way it was, man. You'd be on the Richter scale. You could pick it up on the Richter scale of an earthquake from the fans winning or from Earnhardt winning. That's the way it was when Tony helicoptered in. When that helicopter come hovering and started coming down and hit the ground, and he got out of that helicopter, 100 and however in those days, 150,000 people or 30 or whatever it was. I'm telling you right now, everybody was up hooping and hollered, right, and watching this happen. So it's a real big, it's a big ass deal. It was a big deal, and that's when I realized what this double thing was. I'm like, this is a cool deal, man. This is good. This is good for a sport, all right. So I always have that in my mind when these guys do pull these doubles. And the deal with Kyle was, they wanted that helicopter baby to come in and land with Kyle Larson, and they wanted our NASCAR fans to see that and experience it, enjoy it. Well, the rain kept that from happening. All right. So now you got to rethink about everything. But and if Kyle hadn't sped, if he hadn't sped on pit road at Indy, who knows what would have happened. I mean, this dude had a shot. He had a legitimate shot to win that friggin' race, man.
Mhm.
Kyle Larson, a rookie at Indy 500, winning. My Lord have mercy. And they already had plans in place if he won the race. No rain. They still had plans in place, like all the ceremonies and stuff. And I don't know what those plans are. Maybe delayed starting of 600 a little bit. Maybe him delaying getting there a little bit. I don't know what those plans are. That probably figures into this overall decision. But in my mind, yeah, he that was choosing. And I keep saying Kyle. I shouldn't say that. I don't know that he had much choice or say in this matter. I got an idea he was doing what he was told. And if you're a driver doing what you're told, then chips fall where they fall. But the good that it brought to motorsports in general, I think, outweighed all the negative stuff that happened. That's just my point. And the deal with Bubba, poor old Bubba, he's always on the friggin' defense, right? And he finally had something he could get on the offense about, right? So he put it out there. I kind of chuckled when he said that, because he had a valid point. That's a very valid point, very valid. And but I thought, damn, Bubba, you're always on the defensive on everything all the time. You finally get to go on the offense about something. So good for you, dude. Good for you.